Hi everyone, Leanne here from Jada Blossom, and I have a fun 3-card video today. Hey, so I'm using Jada Blossom's Build an Ornament character dies, the Build an Ornament dies, Glasses dies, Stitch Circle dies, Stitch Square dies, Christmas Signs Revamped, Gingerbread Brood stamp set, and the outline dies, along with Sunny Studios All is Bright and Joyful Holiday 6-inch pads. There we go. And I did assemble, and mini tag dies 3, sorry guys. And I'm using Odds and Ends Christmas Magic from Doodlebug. And I did assemble these on the Build an Ornament character add-ons. So check that out. You can watch me put those together on that video. So first what I did was I taped these 2 dies together. And then I went ahead and I cut them out of American Crafts, or out of Paper Tray Ink white cardstock, and then again out of the patterned paper. And then I made sure to mark which way was pointing up, because you never get it perfect, right? And then that way when you layer things together, they will be, even and perfect, right? So I'm using some ATG tape. And then I'm going to stick these together in a moment. So this is a 4-inch square die, and then I'm using a 4-inch square piece of acetate because I'm going to be making shaker windows for all of my cards. So I am just going to now assemble these. So what I'm doing is I'm layering the acetate in between the white cardstock and the patterned paper. I'm sorry if you hear noises in the background. That's my cat doing some major cleaning of himself. And he's pretty noisy about it. So anyways, I'm just layering these 2 layers together. Like I said, there we go. And I'm doing the same thing with the other 2. So a bunch of different patterns of paper from those pads I mentioned. And now I have a Paper Tray Ink white card base. This is 4 1/4 inches square. I'm going to add a 1-inch strip of paper from the pattern paper pads to the inside. And then I'll trim off that overhang with a pair of scissors. There we are. And there. And I'm doing the same thing to all 3, just adding a 1-inch strip to the inside as a decoration, right? This one has little gingerbread men on it. There we go. And I'll trim off that overhang with a pair of scissors. And then this one, I will do the same thing, adding that 1-inch strip with gingerbread men again, because I'm making 2 gingerbread ornament cards and then 1 Santa ornament card. So I will trim off that overhang with a pair of scissors. And there we are. Now I'm going to stamp using that Christmas Signs stamp set, and I'm going to stamp the same sentiment on the inside of all 3 cards using my Misty and some VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. It'll just say Merry Christmas on each one. There we are. And I am going to stamp that, like I said, in VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. So if you're making 1 of these, it's just as easy to make 3 of them, right? So there's the first one, there's the second one. Perfect. And then I will do the last one as well. And then we will get on to creating the rest of this card. So there it is. So now I am pulling out a stamp. This is the Gingerbread Brood stamp set. And there we go. And I'm going to stamp that on Paper Tray Ink white cardstock with VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink, the same as before. And that, yeah, there we go. And I will stamp that. And I want to stamp it a couple of times to make it nice and crisp. You want to get a good image. There we go. And I'm going to stamp another sentiment on this side. And this is from that same Christmas Signs stamp set. And it says, We Believe. And I'm going to stamp that in that same ink. There we go, a couple of times just to make sure. And there we go. So now I am going to stick down my super cute little Santa. This is from Doodlebug's Christmas Magic Odds and Ends. I like to use these on the inside of cards. So this is going to be for my Santa one. I'll just trim off that overhang with a pair of scissors. And next I'm going to do my 2 gingerbread ones. And I have 2 gingerbread cookie ones to put on the inside for these guys. So just using my reverse tweezers and some Bearly Art glue. And I will trim off that overhang with a pair of scissors. There we go. And this guy will have the same one. And get that in place. And then we will be in business. There we go. And then I will trim off that overhang again with a pair of scissors. So there it is. Now I'm going to do some die cutting. I'm going to cut out this We Believe with Jaded Blossoms Mini Tag Dies 3. You see that I'm cutting a couple of pairs of glasses out of Sunny Studios pattern paper. And then for this, I'm using the Gingerbread Brood outline dies, and I'm going to cut these guys out with those outline dies. And because you've taken time to stamp your sentiment, you want to tape it in place before you run it through. Even if you use a magnet, like they can move. You don't want to have to stamp it all over again, right? So I'm just going to get that into place. And there we go. Now I love a shaker card. I love the sound it makes. I just think that they are so cute. These would be fun for kids and adults, right? So there, and I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine. And there we go. So I'm going to add on my little sunglasses, or not sunglasses, glasses to each of these guys. I just think this makes it even cuter. There we go. And I did use Doodlebug's dot stripe and dot grid daisy stripe for these little gingerbread men. Remember, you can watch me assemble those on the assembly video for the Build an Ornament character add-ons. Now I'm using, these are little strips. I believe they're scrapbook.coms. And they're just foam strips, and these are going to be my dimension, so I can put some shaker elements in there. And we're just going to run them around the circle. And you want to keep it all level, you know, all around the edge. So I'm just going to fill in all around the edge and, you know, get the foam tape going, and then I will add my sprinkle mix to the inside of this window. So I just think these are super cute and fun. And like I said, kids love a shaker card. I think adults like a shaker card too. It's the sound it makes, right? Now, all these shaker bits that I used today, like, you know, I did use moonshine sequins. I used white seed beads. I also used clay shaker bits, and they came from various places. A lot of companies carry them. Some of them are discontinued, so, you know, but you can find them all over the place. So just look for, you know, the clay shaker bits. You can also get some of them on Amazon sometimes. So just, you know, keep an eye out. They're fun to put in your shaker cards. So I'm just making sure that that little window is sealed off, right? And I am just filling in all the foam strips. I know, Sammy, you're a good boy. Sammy's like purring away here. I'm just going to fill in the foam strips just to make sure this sits nice and flat on my card front. So there we go. And this is basically just how I made my shaker window. Right? Now it takes a bit to peel off all the backings. And then I did cut 4-inch squares of that pattern paper from those pads that I mentioned. And then you're going to want to add your little shaker bits to the inside. So these are gingerbread men, and, you know, these are little gingerbread looking hearts. And then these are moonshine sequins in 3mm. So I'm just going to sprinkle some of those in. And I do the same thing for all of them. And then I'm going to use some white seed beads as well, and just sprinkle some of them in. There we go. And now you can put on your piece of paper as your window backing. And here is your shaker window. There. And now I'm going to stick that to my card front with some HEG tape. I just find this is the easiest way to do it because you can apply it to the card front, you know, as a unit. So there we go. Oops. There we are. We just want to make sure we are any of that acetate sticking out if I didn't measure correctly. So there it is. And isn't that fun? So there's a shaker card. I'm going to do the same thing to this one. This one has little gingerbread men and little candies. And then I'm going to add on the little hearts as well. And same thing, seed beads, moonshine sequins, and 3 millimeters. You want to fill them up enough, but you know, you don't have to overfill them. So I'm adding my white seed beads. And then I will add my little backing on again. This is my other, and you see I didn't line it up well. That's okay. You can just trim off what's sticking out. No one will know. There we go. And then I will add that to my card front again with some HEG tape. And like this is really easy to do as an assembly line like I'm doing. So I'll just line that up and add that to my card front as well as I can. And there we go. And next, whoops, those are the 2 gingerbread ones I'm working on. Next, this is going to be the Santa one. So I'm adding in those moonshine sequins. And then this is a different set. It's just all kind of Christmassy. And we're just going to sprinkle those in as well. There's candy canes and some other stuff. And I'm just going to make sure that these are kind of, I try to keep them as one layer because they move around better that way. There we go. Making sure nothing's stuck together. And then I will add on my little pattern back piece. You'll see that I did peel off the foam tape already. These are the seed beads. And then there is my Sunny Studios background piece. There we go. And then I will add that to my card front with some HEG tape again and get it in place for my shaker card front. Okay, so we'll pop that on our card front as straight as I can get it. Okay, so there it is. Next, I'm going to add my little Santa, and I'm going to add it with this Big Mama foam tape roll. I believe it came from Simon Says Stamp. So I'm just going to trim that to fit so I can pop up my ornament. This stuff is really, really sticky. I always find I have a hard time peeling the backing off. I don't know if that's just me, but this is an older roll of tape. I'm not sure if the newer ones are like that, but this I actually kind of have a hard time pulling off the backing. So I tend to use one of those Ranger poker tools just to get it going. So there it is, and there's my little trick to getting the backing off. And I didn't get it, but you know, this is the problem. I have a hard time peeling off the backing for whatever reason. But this stuff sticks like nobody's business. So I'm going to line that up on my card front. Try to center it on the window. There we go. I'm going to add the We Believe little sentiment, probably in the upper left. Trying to figure it out here. There we are. And I will add some foam tape to the back of this as well, just so I can keep everything level, or as level as I can get it, right? And then, you know, look kind of fun. Remember, these sentiments on the other 2 cards will be from that gingerbread stamp set, and I did use the outline dies for those ones. I always say the outline dies aren't a necessity for those stamps, but they sure make life easier when you have them, right? So I'm just pulling off all of the background paper. And like I said, I have a hard time peeling this stuff off. I don't know why. And I'm going to pop that in the upper left-hand corner. There we go. And then I'll trim off that overhang with a pair of scissors. Just want to line it up with your, just trim off, lining it up perfectly. There we are. So it says, we believe. This next one, I will go ahead and pop up with some of that same foam tape. It's super duper sticky. You're going to want to use those scissors that have non-stick blades because it even sticks to those, kinda. And I am going to, like I said, pop this all up with that same Simon Says Stamp Big Mama foam tape. So I am just trying to keep things level and keep it all, an even amount over the whole back of this. There we are. And then I will do the same thing. Perfect. And there we go. And I'm just sort of filling in here and there. So these little gingerbread men are adorable, or the gingerbread head ornaments, I guess you want to call them. These build an ornament character add-ons are so cute. I loved this release from Jaded Blossom, and I think it's so handy and fun. And I think kids could make these too. They're very simple. So I'm just going to line that up. That little shiny piece is some silver cardstock from American Crafts. Next, I'm going to stick down my sentiment using some ATG tape. There we go. Okay, so there is that one. And there's my Santa one. And then this is the last one. So I'll add on my little sentiment from that Gingerbread Brood stamp set and outline dies to the lower left-hand corner. And then I will pop up this little guy with that same Simon Says Stamp Big Mama foam tape and get it in place. And I just think these turned out so cute. They're super fun, and there is my super happy little gingerbread guy. And now I'm pulling out a Secure White Jelly Roll pen in a number 10 for some highlights and freckles, and a black glaze pen from Secura just to color in the eyes, just to make them pop a bit. Remember, you want to let this dry because it can smear, but it does add some shine and dimension to the eyes that I just think look great. There we go. I'm going to do the same thing to my Santa. Give him a shiny eye and some white freckles and highlights and all those things. I think it just adds a little something to these odds and ends on the insides of cards. A little highlight to the boots and the candy cane. There we go. You're going to want to put that off to the side to dry. And then this one, the same thing. Little freckles, and then we will color in the eyes with that black glaze pen again from Secura. And then we have 3 super fun little shaker cards. Now next, these are some shape sprinkles from Doodlebugs. They're various old Christmas sprinkles, and I'm just going to be adding some shape sprinkles to the outsides of these cards. I didn't write them down on my list, but I just try to use different ones, odd numbers, all those things. So kind of diagonally, right? So some in the upper left, some down in the lower right. Kind of makes your eyes move around a little bit. There we go. Next we have this one. We're just going to add on my little treats. There we go. These look like those pinwheel candies. And then lastly, we've got some of these ones to use. These look like little Christmas candies again. And I will pop them in place with my pen blade. There we go. So, odd numbers are your friend. And these are all in the same colors as my pattern paper. So it just, makes your eyes move around a little bit. And they're shiny. So that always adds a little something, something, right? Trying to decide what else I'm going to put on this card. And this is what I do when I'm trying to figure out what I'm putting on a card front. I kind of move stuff around until I'm happy. So there is the candy cane. And then that is the card, right? Whoops. I get one more and add another one. So I've got 3 areas on this card. And there we go. And there it is. And there is that fun sound. I just love the sound of a shaker. Thank you so much for stopping by. Be sure to hop on over to the Jada Blossom blog, be inspired by the team, the Jada Blossom store, to get your hands on these awesome products. And thanks for watching. Bye, everybody.